At the party, stripped and teased. The biggest shock came from how much I cherished being on display. I was his whore, paid by the hour to act on his behalf and be whoever and do whatever he pleased. He had me wait in his bedroom since I got there while wearing only pearls and high heels. I waited with a tingle of excitement in my stomach. Any situation could be adapted to, but I hadn't gotten there yet. I reassured myself that I was a good girl at heart despite having a debilitating credit card bill. As I heard visitors arrive, sweat began to accumulate in my armpits, palms, and the soles of my feet. Guests. I didn't anticipate that. His house quickly became crowded with guests. I caught snippets of their conversations floating by. Talk of weddings, births, employment, and family was heard. For a brief moment, I was transported back to the regrettable hours I had spent hiding on the landing of the second floor while parties were being held at our home and listening to my parents and their friends talk and laugh. I experienced the same sensation, like I was in an inappropriate location, like getting caught could result in trouble, but the risk was all part of the excitement. After almost 2 hours, the bedroom door finally cracked open, allowing light to enter. When I realized it was Alex, my client, my throat tightened with fear, and I was unable to breathe. The silhouette of his face revealed his classically handsome appearance even though his features were hidden in the shadows. He opened the door slightly before entering the pitch-black space. In that triangle of light, the tall man's frame cast a protracted shadow. He extended his hand, saying, "Madison, please come with me." His low, solemn voice sent a tingle through my entire body. However, the logical and emotional sides of my being understood that danger and shame awaited me on the other side of the door. Despite my instinctive reaction to his masculine voice, I took the strong hand he was offering me and followed him where he led. I hissed, "I can't go out there. Please. A nice blowjob right here would be nice. You are a prostitute. My mistress kindly accompanies me." He was unaware that I wasn't a whore. I was just a girl in debt pretending to be a whore. A whore could walk out in a room full of people naked and enjoy herself. But if I ever wanted to make money, I couldn't run away from every job that debased me. I sighed and agreed. I let myself be led out of the bedroom by taking his hand. The thought of everyone looking at my naked body caused my heart to beat so quickly that I felt dizzy and as though I were floating down the hallway and into the kitchen. I silenced it as I entered the main room. The moment I walked in, everyone stopped talking and just stared at me. I didn't look up except for a few glances, but I could see polo shirts, sundresses, blue jeans, and blouses. I noticed IPAs and white wine. This was not some illicit gathering, a trashy alcohol binge, a bachelor party, or a birthday celebration for an investment banker. On a Saturday night, a typical group of friends met up for a few drinks at Alex's party. They had brought cheese dips and guacamole and were drinking wines that weren't the cheapest in the store but were firmly in that middle tier. They also had children at home with a babysitter. They had driven here in sedans. I had attended events just like this one, and here I was, standing in the middle of one. I was surprised to discover that even though my brain hadn't caught up, my body was fully aroused even though my heart was still racing and my palms were sweating. My pussy was warm and wet. My turned-up tits served as launch pads for my nipples. My nerves were on alert, and my skin was hot to the touch. I could see that my face was flushed, a sign of my embarrassment and the girl I was trying to hide behind my whore's mask. Alex waited for me. He told me that he was aroused by my embarrassment when his belt rubbed against my back and his cock swelled against the soft flesh of my ass. He spoke softly in my ear. "Do you enjoy how onlookers are observing you?" "Yes," I exhaled. Even though I wasn't certain if it was true, I knew it was what I was supposed to say. My body felt like it was going to explode from the inside out from the excitement, which was so strong that it made my knees weak. Both I and I didn't like it. He commanded me to look at his guests while forcing my face up and placing his hand under my chin. Before finally looking into their eyes, I bit my lip to fake a smile. They all appeared to be so familiar to me that I might have mistakenly been on the other side of the situation. He whispered, "Good girl," while petting my ear with his lips. He was teasing me as I felt his hands on my body. I swayed against him and couldn't help but get caught up in the heightened sexual tension. I squealed in pain when he pinched my engorged nipple, but it only made me drier. "You enjoy that?" he inquired. His hand discovered how slippery my pussy was already as the silver metal of his watch band scraped my skin. I blinked. "Say it." "Yes," I sputtered. I was sincere this time. His friends watched as his sure, strong fingers continued to slap against my clit. Even though my brain was still resisting, I could tell my body was ready for more when my hips began to roll involuntarily. I looked at a woman standing close by who was staring with frozen fascination. I was taken aback to discover that her expression was not critical, but rather almost envious. Behind her, I could see her partner reaching across the front of his jeans to grab at the bulge he couldn't conceal. In my ear, he growled, "I want you to come." I begged as I shook my head. "No, please." His palm brushed against my swollen, sensitive nub as his index finger slid over my clit and curled inside of me, finding my sweet spot and applying gentle, regular pressure. I writhed up against him, totally defenseless. He pulled at my nipple with his other hand until I whimpered and leaned in closer to him, unable to resist the urge to fuck his finger with my slick pussy. I exhaled, "God," and wrapped my arm around his neck, entwining my fingers in his gentle curls. "Keep your eyes peeled," he ordered. I struggled to pay attention to what he said, but the pleasure of the situation caused my eyelids to continue to flutter and my eyes to roll back in my head. In my desperation to comply, I concentrated on the woman seated next to me, observing how she had backed up against him and how his hand on her thigh had lifted her sundress just enough to show a tiny portion of her white cotton panties. "Come," he exclaimed. As I brought myself to orgasm against his finger, spilling sloppily down my thighs, my face contorted with pleasure, I couldn't help but whimper and whine. After I was done, he offered me his fingers, and I eagerly ate them while savoring the flavor of my cum. I felt the rush of my nakedness re-entering my consciousness as the instant passed. I forced my eyes to open and looked around the room while severely blushing. Alex's hand on my arm stopped me from fleeing back to the bedroom to hide. He took a wine glass off the counter and raised it in a toast. He released me and pointed his glass at me, saying, "To my wife on her 31st birthday." The awkward silence was quickly broken as the space around me erupted. They all cried out, "To Madison."